Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Ukraine's leaders know that Canada is still one of their biggest supporters following his apology yesterday. Last Friday, during Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to Ottawa, MPs gave a standing ovation to a man who fought for the Nazis. Experts say the humiliating incident in Parliament has drawn attention to a stain in Canada's history that needs to be acknowledged. Manisa Donabalan joining us live with more on this ongoing story. Manisa.
Hey, Matt. The PM also apologized to President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and the House of Commons Speaker Anthony Rota stepped down, taking full responsibility for what happened. But experts say it's not enough.
Obviously, since this terrible incident happened on Friday, we have been in close connection with our Ukrainian friends and counterparts. We've expressed, obviously, the extraordinary regret that all of Canada shares that this would have happened, and reassured them that we continue to stand incredibly strong with Ukraine in its fight against Russia.
Experts say it's going to be hard for the Liberal government to move on from this because it's not just an embarrassment, it compromised Canada and put Ukraine in danger.
You will recall the accusation, the false accusation by Russia against Ukraine has been that the government of Ukraine is made up of neo-Nazis and support Nazism, and that Russia is fighting a defensive war against Nazism, and that the West is supporting the extreme right.
Many say there needs to be more than an apology. The federal government will have to make sure that this never happens again.
That Ukraine was, in this particular instance, uninformed by what had happened, that they were sideswiped by it, so to speak, that Ukraine is entirely cleared of this. If there are extradition proceedings against Mr. Yaroslav Hunka, then Canada will need to seriously consider whether there is justification for extradition and not just dismiss that.
And transparency is needed. Some historians say what happened last week is a reminder of what's happened in the past when it comes to Canada's treatment of Nazis.
They were welcomed back in the aftermath of World War II in the late 30s and early 40s. There was not at all the type of stringent rules and accountability that we saw in so many other countries, particularly if the Nazi perpetrators were other than German. We know the flip side of it. We know that for Jews there was a none is too many policy.
It's a stain on our history.
It's hard to know what the motivation was back then. I am sure there was systemic racism at play. I'm sure there was all sorts of things at play. But we saw this continue throughout the decades. Subsequent governments, government after government did not try and deal with this issue.
The Conservatives want a Commons committee to summon federal police agencies and someone from the Prime Minister's office to explain the incident. But they aren't interested in hearing from former Speaker Anthony Rota, who issued the invitation, or anyone from his office. On the other hand, the calls are growing for the federal government to make all Holocaust-related records public.
Meanwhile, the University of Alberta is closing down an endowment fund named after Yaroslav Hunka and returning a $30,000 donation it received from the family back in 2019.